Thomas, how are you today?
Jonathan, I am doing very well, sir. Friday, December 20th, we're 5 days from seeing Santa come down the chimney and deliver our gifts to us, okay? Are you happy? Huh?
Oh yeah,
Look, you have a smile on your face. You're waiting for him, aren't you?
always are.
Good man, good man. Hey, it keeps the kid in all of us, you know. Plus, you got a little guy, so that
Yeah,
makes you happy for Christmas to see his face.
definitely.
Anyway, all right, we're going to talk about a few things today that, happened, this week. One, Jerome Powell, he dropped the interest rates what we're expecting. However, the markets are like insanely dropping. I mean, since the close on Friday, the 29th of November, the Dow has been down about 2,600 points. Okay. So whatever gains we made after the election, we're giving it back. All right. So that's not a good sign. So one of the things we're going to talk about, the topic, is Jerome Powell trying to sabotage the economy for Trump. Sounds kind of odd, but we got to start thinking. Also, we're going to discuss is about the strikes at Amazon. There are 7 plants that are under strike, and Starbucks in 3 cities are going on strike, and it's going to affect 525 stores. Again, unions are involved in this. So, another subject we're going to talk about: Wall Street's desire to be whores in college sports. All right. Anyway, let's get into the first one. Is Jerome Powell trying to sabotage the U.S. economy? Why don't you pull that link up, Jonathan? So, Jonathan, since I briefly spoke about it, why don't you jump in and give your point of view, what you think may be going on with everything? Because I know you even keep a little bit of a close look on the mortgage rates, and the mortgage rates haven't been dropping, considering prior to this drop by Powell, that have been 0.75 basis points dropped in the last 2 months.
Yeah, I
So, go
mean,
ahead.
I know we look at inflation, we look at the mortgage rates, we look at the index, we try and see how that relates to each of us,
Mhm.
any of you out there, how it helps you or hurts you. Um, I know that these last 4 years have been challenging for a lot of us. I know even these numbers, these numbers, if you look at it, 21 7, inflation at 7, 22 6.5. I don't know where they get 23 at 3.4 and 24 at 2.7, because for all people out there, we're still facing very um, high times and everything. I mean, I haven't seen anything go down. So
Mhm.
to think that our inflation, listen, if our inflation is 2.7, then I don't know, when you're going out and you're buying stuff, everything is a lot more than it's ever been.
It's
Um,
true.
so one is, as an average person out there, I don't even understand the numbers, because it doesn't relate to the average person out there that is buying food, buying gas, paying for electric, paying for natural gas,
Mhm.
uh, you know, buying school supplies, buying things for the house.
Mhm.
Everything is just much more expensive than it ever was. What are they? There's always a balance between, lowering the rate, and how that affects mortgages, and then how that affects the ripple effects of how that affects, pricing for real estate. In real estate, I've seen houses been stale. I mean,
Mhm.
they're not selling as quickly. They're not really going down in price that much, considering, but people, I guess, are holding to their numbers, and they want to get it. But I normally pick a few pockets of certain areas, and I try and see if is it a good investment to pick up. And
Mhm.
the houses are sitting for the first time in years. Um, they're not sitting for, a year, but they're sitting. It used to be that it sold before the paper was dry with the real estate broker. It
Mhm.
was sold the next day. Now it's
Okay.
months, 3, 4, 5 months sometimes.
Yeah.
So we are seeing, um, you know, things that we haven't seen for, 4 or 5 years.
Well,
Um,
I want to interject for a second because you made a comment, the average Joe, you don't understand these, numbers. And you're right, because these numbers are manipulated. They're manipulated by the federal government, just like how the job numbers are manipulated. Okay. So, we look at where the value of dollars were in 2020. We've lost 24 cents for every dollar because of inflation. All right. However, when you start looking at the inflation numbers, now this link we pulled up, it covers the current U.S. inflation rates from 2000 to 2024, so a 24-year period. So you can see a graph here, all right? So Powell said, going back a couple of years ago, we need to get inflation down to 2% before we cut the rates. Now, this article, okay, this link, it says the annual inflation rate for the United States was 2.7% for the 12 months ending in November, compared to the previous rate increase of 2.6%, according to the U.S. Labor Department. And the data was published on December 11th, okay? So that was last week. Now, Powell contradicted himself. He said, I will not lower any rates until we get it down to 2%. He's not even close to it, okay? That 0.7 is actually very high. So we need to get that down. So that's why I think he's sabotaging things. And what I'd like you to do is bring up the next screen so I can actually present exactly what I'm saying to back it up. Now, this link is an economics link. This is about the gross domestic product, the GDP. And for everybody to understand, so for that average Joe out there that, Jonathan mentioned, the gross domestic product is the total value of goods and services produced in the United States minus the value of goods and services used to produce them. Now, Jonathan, can you just scroll a little bit so we can get that part that right there? Stop. Now, there's 4 bullet points there, all right? So you have the U.S. GDP growth rate for 2020. Now, that was COVID, everybody, was minus 2.21%. It was a decrease of 4.68% from 2019. Now, you think about that, that means we had a 7%, over a 7% GDP in the United States in 2019, all right? But we had a decrease, and we all understand it was COVID, the shutdown globally, et cetera. Then we go into 2021, and the number looks really, really good. Biden's first year, we had an increase of 5.80%, okay? And that was, an increase of 8.01% from 2020. But that was because of the shutdown. There was no magic being done. The floodgates opened, so the dam rushed. That's why we had that. Now, here's the reality check. 2022. COVID's over now. We only had a growth rate of 1.94%. Okay, so that was a decline of 3.8%, almost 4%. Now, think about that. What's that telling you when you start looking at those numbers, Jonathan, and the way I'm, discussing it?
I mean, they're numbers. They're playing them so they can show you what they want to show you, but it's not really. When the average Joe looks at it and tries to understand it, they're not gonna get what they think they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these games that all the people on the high end on both sides that they play these games to make you think that things are better than they are. They use these narratives that
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just gonna say Biden for right now because he was the one in the seat that Biden created all
100%.
these jobs and
Mm-hmm.
he didn't. And listen, we're not going to be critical on one side and not the other. We're going to be real. We want to put the facts out there so everyone knows what it is, and we can prepare the right way.
Yeah. Now, exactly what you're saying, Jonathan. Now, to balance it all out, we go to what we were just discussing prior to this about the annual inflation rate. It's sitting at 2.7% over the last 12 months. However, our GDP is not showing any great increase. So we're actually behind the 8 ball instead of being way ahead of the 8 ball, like in 2019, which it was Trump that was in charge. And if we looked at the 2018 number and 2017, I'm sure we would see growth each year after that. So the way I am looking at things from my perspective, all right, even though the market's taken a big hit, everybody's saying, hey, is there going to be a correction in the market? You're coming into the last 2 weeks of the year, and there's usually a sell-off for the people in Wall Street, because they're looking at their taxes and everything else. So that's probably another reason we're seeing these numbers. There's a guy named Tom Lee, and I saw his, video yesterday, And he's saying, hey, come the new year, back the truck in, baby, back it in. We're going to load it up with a lot of money. I think this is the way I'm looking at it. I'm sticking to what I said too. I think the 2025 economy for the whole year is going to be rough. However, as far as the market goes, I think once Trump is sworn in on January 20th, you're going to see these numbers run the board. The Dow's going to go up crazy. You're going to see the S&P go crazy. You're probably going to see the Dow come close to 50,000, and you're probably going to see the S&P at 7,000. So who's ever involved in Wall Street's going to make money. The average Joe is not involved in Wall Street. That's the thing.
There's a lot of
So
things.
yeah, go ahead. I'm going to let you jump in, Jonathan,
Yeah, I
since you
mean,
got
there's a lot of things that go into play. I mean, if anyone's been paying attention to crypto, right? Crypto has
Mhm.
been going crazy these last 30 days. So I don't know how that influences the stocks or people pulling out of stocks, going into crypto or whatever it may be. But like you said, November was a good month in the market. December's not
Mhm.
looking as good. Well,
Mhm.
it's not looking good at all. And but on the flip side, crypto has been, Bitcoin specifically has been going crazy these last few months. Um, so it's a very, very interesting thing to follow. I'm
Mhm.
not very I used to be. I'm not very big into crypto right now. Uh,
Okay.
but I know a lot of people that lost a lot years ago, and I know a lot of people right now that are making big. So um, all that, how it relates to people, the normal people are investing and making, a lot of money, and the same token, they could be losing a lot of money. So it's very interesting to see how it all plays out these next few weeks when we see him sworn in and how that will affect everything else.
Yeah, I do feel, as we talked about in the past, there have been over 1 million jobs lost since the early last year until now that are high-paying jobs, and they have not been replaced. When you look at the job reports every first Friday of the month, you look at where, the increases are coming. They're coming from hospitality, low-paying jobs, hospitals, low health, meaning healthcare, low-paying jobs, and also, government, which a lot of those government positions are low paying because some of them are seasonal jobs too that the government's bringing in. So, you got to look at things in a perfect circle here. And if we look at 2020, the average household income was just over $81,000. Now it's 4 years later, it's below $80,000. So it's dropped. However, we've had an increase of inflation, like Jonathan mentioned, of over 24%. So, a lot more people behind the eight ball, a lot more people are in debt because of their credit cards, et cetera. So, you got to start calculating. My advice is be very conservative and be very strategic. You only buy what you need. Do not buy what you want. Only buy what you need and stay that way for the whole year. Make that your New Year's resolution, okay? And use your credit card as least as possible, especially if you already have, that you're in debt, don't need to be adding to it. Jonathan, do you have any final thoughts on what I just discussed?
I mean, it's all good advice. Keep an eye on everything. Be careful with what you invest in. Do your research. Don't just follow people because they're telling you on social media that it's going to go, to the sky and they're going to make
Mhm.
millions. Because there've been a lot of people recently that have be pushing certain coins and certain stocks, and you don't want to be in a bad situation when it's
Yeah,
potentially a bad situation coming no matter what.
100%, 100%. John, let's jump to see what's happening in the Amazon world. Okay, a lot of people do use Amazon for their packages, et cetera. This is from USA Today.
Yeah.
Amazon workers to strike at 7 U.S. sites. Now, this ended up happening yesterday. The retailer says it won't slow the holiday deliveries. I'm sure there'll be some things that are late, but basically, Sean O'Brien, who's the president of the Teamsters, he said if your package is delayed during the holidays, you can blame Amazon's greed over this. Okay. Now, we talked about Sean O'Brien about 2 months ago, where he really went off in the Democratic Party because the Democrats aren't for the working class anymore. And he actually was in Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention where he spoke. Now, you know what? I have nothing against Sean O'Brien. Okay. He's a guy from Boston. And I know he's promoting the job. I believe in unions to a certain degree. Unions, unfortunately, have been corrupt for decades. They buy politicians. They contribute to their campaigns, etc. They'll go out campaigning for them, and I don't think unions should be that way. I think unions need to be like Switzerland. They need to be neutral. Now, if we look at Amazon and look at how Amazon is developed, Amazon has created a lot of jobs for a lot of people. It's created a marketplace where now, just taking an analogy, you look at where, you used to have flea markets, you used to go to flea markets to, go meet entrepreneurs and buy their goods. Well, now Amazon has become that flea market online. And that's what's occurred. And it's created a lot of, jobs and a lot of wealth for independent entrepreneurs. Now, as far as our Amazon workers working in the warehouse, they're warehouse workers. I'm not trying to take anything away from you, but from my understanding, they're getting paid about 18 to $22 an hour. We do know technology is going to be coming around the corner. The robots are gaining strength. And, once AI kicks in, which it's going to take probably about 5 to 10 years, it's going to enhance a lot of this, warehouse work where these robots are going to get updated, like you update your cell phone and update your computer when, every few months when you get these updates only to make it better. Same thing's going to happen with these robots as well, too, for efficiency, etc. A lot of these independent drivers that are out there for Amazon, that's exactly what they are. They're contractors like FedEx. They're contracted drivers where Amazon's helped them buy a vehicle. Okay. They've actually got them involved where they can become a distributor delivering. A lot of people don't know the backstory behind, those drivers out there, but those drivers are independent, even though they have an Amazon branding on it. But Amazon, I feel, has been very fair to people thus far. Okay. That, I do know a couple of people work in the warehouse, they even tell me the medical's good, etc. I just feel the unions are getting greedy because they see an opportunity here where they can get more members underneath their umbrella. That means they get more dues paid. Jonathan, I'm going to let you go in because I'm running out of air. Go ahead.
It's funny because the Amazon delivery, I'm curious. I looked into that years ago to see what it's all about. And yeah, they fly you out there. They do the a few weeks training. It's a big thing. I couldn't recall. I can't recall now if they paid for the vehicle. They helped you finance it or something. But it's I agree. I think Amazon has done. Listen, Amazon's made a lot of money, so they're able to provide better work conditions for a lot of their employees. It's not to say that there are bad conditions out there. There's
And,
always
and, and
bad.
Jonathan, if you don't mind me saying, adding what you're saying, yeah,
Yeah,
Amazon has made a lot of money, but you know what? I've made a lot of money because of investments. You did. Anybody else invest in Amazon, but also the entrepreneurs on marketplace of Amazon's made a lot of money. Continue.
well, that's really they made a lot of money and they've done like you said, even like Whole Foods, like their starting pay I think is like $17 or $19 an hour for just starting out. So I
And,
think
and that's in a grocery store.
yeah. So I think they're getting fair, right? They're making it a better work environment. It's not to say that there are issues. There's issues in every company, how they work, how they do things. There's always room for improvements, right?
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Whenever I always feel like whenever there's a critical time, the unions or employees will always try and use that to their advantage because that's the only ground that they got. But
Mhm.
it's not always the right thing to do long term. And I don't like that. But I mean, listen, I think the robotics, and all of the AI that we talked about for the last year, it's going to improve a lot of things. I mean, there's probably not going to be people picking and packing anymore. It's going to all be done, if it's not already. Yeah, a lot of it
Mhm.
is. It's all going to be done with these machines I'm sure you guys have seen videos out there where there are machines, robots out there that are going through picking things, sucking them out and whatnot. So who knows how much longer warehouse employees will be there? Um,
Not That's true. And we don't know what other jobs are going to be created for people because of these robots and AI, it's almost like a dog walker. You need the dog walker to control maybe a half a dozen to a dozen leashes. So you're going to need the same thing for these robots? I don't know.
well, yeah, I mean, let's say, we'll see what happens, but just another topic that's interesting, and
Mhm. I
it's
I agree. I agree with you. And you know what? I think the unions are being a little bit greedy here. If we go to the next one from Yahoo in regards to Starbucks, as I mentioned, Workers United, which represents more than 525 stores, said employees were going on strike to fight for better pay and benefits, protest unfair labor practices, and resolve litigation with Starbucks. 98% of the union partners voted in favor of the strike, Workers United said. The union said that the 5 day of escalating strikes will kick off Friday, meaning today, and continue until December 24th, beginning in what is called the three of Starbucks' most important markets, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Chicago. Okay. Let's think about those three cities. They're all blue cities. Okay. People with their hands out, way, what's for me? All right. And the walkouts are expected to ramp up over the next few days and reach hundreds of stores across the country by Christmas Eve, according to the union. Now, Jonathan, I'm not a big Starbucks guy. Of course, I've been in them. I've probably been in Starbucks at least 100 times around the country, all right, throughout the years. Now, people are pouring coffee. It doesn't look like a stressful job unless you're just trying to keep up with orders. You're writing people's names on cups. And please, I'm not making fun of anybody, all right? It's not like you're a police officer or a teacher, with, 30 screaming kids in a classroom. It's a little bit different, okay? You're not going to take a college degree and, hopefully go like make a career out of Starbucks, even though there probably are some people doing that. What are your thoughts on this, Jonathan? Because I know you're probably in Starbucks more than me with
I
meetings and
mean,
et cetera over the
I mean,
last
I,
decade.
I like Starbucks. It's not the best, but it's decent. The coffees are expensive, right? You'll pay 6, 7, sometimes $8 for a coffee. So it really
By the way, you know what? When you say that to me, I'm thinking about when I was a kid, about 10, 11 years old. My father's saying, "Hey, here's 50 cents. Go get me a cup of coffee and make sure you bring me back my change."
yeah. I mean, think about it. So if they want to uh, get more increases in wages and benefits, where is that going to come from? It had to come from the company side and them making less money because you can't continue to make it. What is going to be $10 for a coffee for a latte? Um, it's and you're right. I mean, the only thing I'll say is that there's a lot of workers in there, and there might be two by the registers, two or three on the side making the drinks. So maybe you have 5 people, but Starbucks is, people come in there. If you go in during a busy time, there might be like a line of 10, 15 people, if not more.
Mhm.
So I can get like it could get to be a very stressful environment, but that's work. I mean, that's what work's supposed to be. You have to work, and things are difficult sometimes, and then you'll have time off because there'll be times
Yeah,
that you'll walk in and no one's there. So I just don't know like what you would expect. You're not going to make $100,000 pouring coffee, so
yeah,
that doesn't make it for you. If you can't make a life out of, I think it said here, 16.50. This person was making an hour.
hmm,
Starbucks is going to give them what, a 40 cent raise, so $17 almost
yeah.
uh, for pouring coffee. I mean, I think that's what you can expect. I think people are the issue is that people like their job, but they want to get paid more for it when the job doesn't have enough to pay more out of it. So maybe they just need a
Yeah.
different career. Like they have to have a higher ceiling. You can't just make Starbucks your ceiling if the salary doesn't make sense for you.
You hit upon something to come back to, but I just want to get ahead on this one before I lose the thought. Um, these people with the unions, Amazon and Starbucks, and when I see these people are workers, what do you think you're really going to benefit? Okay. You know what? You're going to have to pay dues, and that's what's going to happen. The union's going to take X amount from you. Um, if you don't like your job, like Jonathan says, move on to another job. Make yourself better. Birds of a feather flock together. Find better birds to fly with that are going to make you better. All right. Now, Jonathan pointed out, listen, this person's making $16 and change. They're going to get a 40 cents raise. It's going to bring them up to almost $17 for pouring coffee. I remember going back, it's got to be about 12 years ago when they're talking about minimum wage should be $15. And I remember saying to the people that were telling me this, and it was at a holiday dinner with family and that, I go, guys, you got to realize when you work a grocery store, a deli, a bakery, uh, a fast food restaurant, these are stepping stone jobs. These were for teenagers when I was a kid, and it was for retirement people behind the cash registers or moms who just needed a few hours out of the house while the kids were at school. That's what these were. These weren't career jobs. And this is what's happening. Look at people that work at Walmart. Do you see unions trying to go in there and create strikes? Unions have tried, but Walmart shuts them down because, as Jonathan pointed out in the last video, Walmart is such a huge global employer. Okay, they're one of the biggest employers in the United States outside the U.S. government. So when it comes to hourly pay in certain jobs, these are stepping stone jobs. There are consequences to the consumer. For you to get paid $22 an hour to pour coffee, that means they're going to have to charge $10 to $12 a cup of coffee. How many people you're going to lose traffic? You're going to lose customers, and then eventually you're going to lose a job. Okay. That's what's going to happen. There's consequences. Jonathan, you have any closing thoughts before we move on to the next one?
I would just say, listen, if as far as the job, everyone should look at their job. What are they getting paid? Is it enough to support their life? Is there growth within that job with what they
Mm-hmm.
have? And if it's not, then look for something that can look for someone with a higher ceiling, like I said, that you can grow into and live your life. Don't make a fast food, fast drink chain have to be the way for you to support your lifestyle if you can't make it work.
Yeah, 100%. John, let's go into the last slide that we got. All right. And this was on CNBC yesterday. I happened to be listening to it on satellite radio. And I was like, I was taken back a little bit by this. It's about private equity companies from Wall Street looking to buy into college sports. So, the private equity and venture capital enterprises such as College Sports Tomorrow, Smash Capital, and Collegiate Athlete Solutions are looking to buy NCAA sports programs. The schools with the most valuable athletic programs sit in the best position to capitalize with this. Football generates roughly 75% of athletic uh, program revenue at the typical Power Four schools, according to people familiar with the economics. All right. Um, I do know Ohio State University is the biggest one. I think Michigan. I forgot who the third. I know Alabama's in there,
Yeah,
and there was another one. I forgot what the other one was.
Longhorns.
Oh, Texas Longhorns. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, why don't you pull this off and let's go full screen, Jonathan? Let's just discuss this, you and I. So, what are your thoughts of this whole thing, Jonathan, in regards to Wall Street private equity companies buying into a college sports program, almost like a franchise in a professional sports?
I mean, listen, I've known a lot of people over the years that have only watched college sports. They've kind of gotten away from like the NFL or other major league sports.
And
Um,
by the way, I'm one of those people. Okay, but go ahead.
yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of a lot of reasons, but people find it more entertaining. Now with a lot of these athletes in college getting all these sponsorship deals, they're making millions of dollars a year. Some of these quarterbacks I mentioned to you, they're signing these multi-million dollar deals. So I think all the private equity firms are looking and saying that this is probably the next honey hole to get in there and get some money out of it. And
Mm.
they're not wrong. I just don't know if it's the right move for you know everyone. It's the right move for them because there's money there.
Let, let me ask Jonathan, when you say it's not the right move, what are you thinking? Because it's an educational institution versus a professional institution
I
like
think so.
sports?
I don't know if you want to make the college and universities are for education first, and it should be that way. The sports are a great piece.
Great point, Jonathan. Two minds think alike. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I mean the sports are a great add-in, right? But they shouldn't. They're going to take over the education part. And if that happens, then what happens? Long term, it's not going to be a good outcome. But because money normally, money makes money, but money can also destroy things, and I think that may
100%.
be something that it might happen if it's not done the right way.
Hey, listen, you know what it is? When you got investors that come into a company, all right, and there was a movie years ago with Gregory Peck and Danny DeVito. I think it was called Other People's Money. It was kind of like about what Carl Pickens, not what's his name, T. Boone Pickens used to do it in Call Icon. They used to be corporate raiders. It was basically in the early 80s. And that's what worries me about these venture capitalists and private equity companies. They're kind of like, raiders, where the money raiders, the barons, where they can come in and they can rip apart your, the foundation of really what your school's about. And that's what scares me, especially if it's a state university. Private equity companies should definitely be off limits. You got to remember the majority of colleges are 501c3 nonprofits. The majority of them are. Plus, the federal government allows them to have an endowment program, which is totally tax free. If you look into there's about 20 colleges that have over $500 million. And a lot of them have over $1 billion in, money that's totally tax-free in endowment programs. So the state university should automatically be eliminated from private equity companies. But, I think if the private equity companies start doing this and getting involved, then I think the federal government has to say, okay, this is what the choice you want. Then we're pulling our federal dollars away from all your educational programs, and that's what's going to happen. Even your Fannie and Freddie loans. That's just me personally. You can choose one. You can't have your whole cake and eat it too. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah,
Jonathan?
I mean, listen, I think this is a good topic for us to follow over the next few months to see, how it develops, if it develops, and there's a lot of good talking points here for us to go over.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, listen, you know what? I think we've had a great segment, provide a lot of information. You guys have a great day, and hopefully we'll get another segment in before the New Year's out. Anyway, thumbs up, hit that like and subscribe. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care.